She's all right when you get to know her. This is my podcast, and it takes you from your restrictive, toxic, life-limiting 9 to 5 into a life on your terms, full of freedom and flexibility as a self-employed virtual assistant. So whether this is your first introduction into the possibility of becoming a VA, or perhaps you've been doing a bit of Googling already, I'm going to get rid of the overwhelm, rid of the self-doubt, and show you that this life is possible. I've not just started this rodeo, you know. I'm Catherine Gladwyn, and I've been doing what you think is impossible since 2015. Shall we get started? Okay, so if you listen to any of my podcasts, I think this is the main one that you need to add to your bookmarks to refer back to at any time, because I'm going to share with you how you can ensure that your virtual assistant business never goes out of business. So you may or may not have heard of the phrase feast or famine. So it's associated with small business owners, sole traders, freelancers, that there's a constant cycle of feast or famine. Some months you're earning lots of money and you're able to, put some aside for savings. And then other months you are scrabbling around for clients. And that is no way to live, because on the months where you're scrabbling around for clients and there's no money coming in, you're looking at going back to employment, and nobody wants that. Now, early on in my business, I had one client who was, in a way, she was brilliant because she enabled me to put boundaries in place. However, I had stupidly allowed her to take up so much of my spare time, so much of the hours that I was able to give as a business owner, which meant when I lost her, I was going to hit that famine phase. So, and in that instance, I had to go back and get a temporary job at the local council, and it was horrific. But that's another podcast. But yeah, and it was from the moment I walked into that job. I was only there a couple of months, but the moment I walked in on that first day, I thought, I am never letting this happen again. This cannot keep happening. I cannot every few months have to go back to employment. I hate it. I don't like it. I phoned my partner. I was crying. I don't want to do this. I'd had a taste already of working from home as a virtual assistant, and I absolutely loved it. And I did not want it to end at all. It was like somebody falling out of love with you. I was absolutely devastated. And I thought to myself, do you know what? Bill Gates doesn't go through this feast or famine every few months. So what's he doing differently? I don't know why I thought about Bill Gates, and nothing he does actually gave me this idea. So, but I did think, there are so many business owners out there that aren't going through the feast or famine cycle. So we don't have to go through it. When I had to go back to work, I had other clients, and I said to one of them, I've lost a big client, and so I'm not bringing in enough money this month. So I guess I've hit that feast or famine cycle. How do you avoid it? I said to her, and she'd been in business 10 years at that point. She went, you can't, it's just inevitable. I thought that isn't true, and not all of us have got a bloke at home that's can financially support us when things do go tits up. So I really, really needed to find a way to avoid that. And I thought to myself, okay, so how did this happen? I lost this client. We'll call her, no, I can't call her a fake name. Yes, call her a fake name. We'll call her Anna. We'll call her Anna. So I'd lost Anna as a client. And as I said, she took up a huge part of my available hours. So I thought, if I get somebody to replace her, just one client, and I lose them again, I'm back to square one. I'm back to famine. So what I need is somebody, not just one person, to replace her hours. I need about 3 or 2 at least. And that's when I came up with the 20% rule. So the 20% rule, and what it means is no one client should take up more than 20% of your time or your income, because if you lose them, you're fucked, basically. And there, in the beginning of your VA journey, it's impossible to do that. But I'd really love it if you all had that as a goal, because that is imperative for you to stay in business. It doesn't matter if somebody takes up 25% or something like that, but just think about, okay, if I lost that client, where would I be financially? And if it's in the famine part of the feast and famine cycle, then you are in trouble. So you need to consider other options. Okay, and I'm going to go through some of those now. So in that instance, if you've got a client that is taking up a lot of your time, and if you lost them, you'd be in trouble, then it's time to either outsource some of their work to an associate, if they're okay with that, or it's time to take on more clients and get an associate to do it, so that you've got clients to fall back on and you've got extra income coming in. And it's all making sure that if you lose that client, you're going to be okay. Now, there are some other ways as well. I'm going to share as many as I can with you before I get tired, but everything and more is in my book, The 20% Rule, which is over on Amazon. Okay, so there's a few things that you can do straight away. And one of those things is to stop looking at other virtual assistants, because whatever they're doing is not, you don't need to be looking. You're judging yourself and you're doing this comparisonitis, and it is debilitating and it's taken up so much of your time. So stop looking at other VAs and instead use that time to look at small business owners and think, do you know what? I think I could help them with, whatever you're offering. So every time you go to load that VA's website that you're pretty sure is doing much better than you, and if you look at her about page on her website for the 700th time, you will convince yourself, definitely, she's definitely doing better than me. And my about page is what's stopping me getting clients. And therefore, I'm going to update my website because I did Catherine's WordPress course. Then I'll get stuck down a rabbit hole. I will completely rebrand my whole business. And yeah, you know where I'm going with that. And some of you are laughing, I expect, because you're like, yeah, that's me. But everything you're doing that isn't helping your business evolve is money on the table. You're just throwing it away. So you've probably heard me say this before, but if not, it is this is so valuable. And it's to time everything you do. So from Monday to Friday, have that, either whether you use Toggle for timing stuff, or if you've got Free Agent and you're using that, time everything. The doorbell goes, timer on. You're downstairs signing for a couple of parcels and for yourself. And then he says, do you know what? Number 32 aren't in. Can you take one for them? Yeah, okay. Let me just take a picture of your feet with your Crocs and your odd socks. And it's all time away. And you might be thinking, do you know what? That's only like 7 minutes, but it all adds up. Think about where your time is going. At the beginning of my VA journey, and I was in a WhatsApp group with I think there was about 5 of us in there. I might say a different number another time, but I think it was about 5 of us in there. And we were all brand new VAs. And the conversation would often get to sort of like talking about kids and, doing up the house and just all random stuff, nothing to do with being a VA. And one day I just decided, do you know what? I don't really know these women. I'm coming out of the group. And I just removed myself from the group because I thought it is not helping me get clients. And it's not that I didn't want to be friends with them. I did. I'm still friends with one now. The other ones, I don't know what they're doing. So I've lost touch. But it wasn't helping me achieve what I wanted to achieve. And that was to be a full-time virtual assistant for the rest of my working life. So if you've got a relative that turns up unannounced, get some landmines or something on your driveway. No, sorry, poor joke. But seriously, right, if you were working in an office block, that relative wouldn't rock up at 10:15 on a Thursday morning to drop off some random shit that they were going to take to a charity shop that you might like. Start making sure that your day is focused on your business so that you can see whether there's any more time that you could be filling with clients. And I don't want you burning out. I don't want you working your arse off. But if you're below that 20% rule at the moment, look to see where you could maybe be clawing back some extra time. So a lot of people look at getting their clients on retainers as a surefire way of not going out of business, because you're guaranteed that income every month. It's not true. Having clients on retainers might tell you that for that month, you've definitely got 500 quid coming in, but it doesn't guarantee you for the next month. And you might say to me, yeah, but I've got a month's or 2 month, 3 months notice in my terms. Yeah. If that client hasn't got the money to pay you, you won't be getting any notice period. If that client is not happy with something you've done and doesn't feel that they want to work with you anymore, good luck going to court to get them to pay the notice period. You'd have to pay to go to court as well. A retainer does not guarantee that you're going to be okay for at least 3 months. The only thing that guarantees that you're going to be okay is by adhering to this 20% rule. And I'm sorry to say it, but constant marketing and audience building, even when you're busy. That's a big part of my book, The 20% Rule, is that even when you're busy, you still need to be marketing. So many people come to me and say, I've just lost a big client. I know I shouldn't have, Catherine, but I stopped marketing. What's the quickest way I can refill those hours? And there is no quick way. You should never have stopped marketing, or it is the only way to continue to get a stream of clients. Now, you might then be wondering, but if I'm busy and I'm marketing and somebody comes to me and wants my help, what do I do? Do I burn out? No, this is where, and I'd never heard of anybody doing it. I'd never asked if anybody had done it. I'm pretty sure they had, but I didn't put the feelers out to ask. But I thought, I wonder if anybody would be up for a waiting list. So I thought, I'm going to give it a try. So I had people come to me saying, I want help with this, that, and the other. And I'd go back and say, I would love to work with you. At the moment, I'm full. So could I put you on my waiting list and we could start work in November or whatever? And people were like, yeah, that's fine. Yeah, that's fine. Because like I say, nothing is urgent. Yeah, start a waiting list. And if you want to then take them on in a few months, brilliant. Or if not, start looking at taking on associates. Yeah. And at the moment, time of recording, March 2025, you might be charging £30 an hour to your clients, and the going rate for associates is £20 to £25 an hour. So you're making a bit of passive income just for sending an invoice, not just for sending an invoice, because you're getting those clients because of your marketing, your reputation, everything. And yeah, you are amazing. But yeah, there's just some things that you can do. Like I said at the beginning, you cannot adhere to that 20% rule because you're just building up your client base. But it's a goal that I would love you to add at the top of your goal list. You can track your time to see if any time's being lost or wasted or anything like that. I actually had to stop myself putting the washing on, putting it out and what have you, because I thought, you know what, when I do that, I then go to the sweet cupboard and get a few naked bars and then perhaps I'll think, oh, do you know what, I'll have an early lunch. And then I sit down and I have an early lunch, and then Homes Under the Hammer hasn't quite finished, and then it does finish, and then it's bargain hunt, isn't it? And before I knew it, I was 2 hours away from my desk. So while we do this to give ourselves that perfect work-life balance, we do always need to be conscious where our time is going as well. The main thing with your business and how to avoid feast or famine is constant marketing and constant audience building. There's no way around it. Look at anybody that's got a business, from as big as Amazon to, I don't know, the local butcher. You know, they're all promoting themselves, word of mouth, or, you know, doing adverts on Facebook, or everything. It is constant marketing and audience building. Once you stop doing that, the leads stop coming in. And something else that I told myself as well was, when I stop marketing, my competitor continues. Don't forget, if you want more tips on how to avoid the famine part of feast or famine cycle, then head over to Amazon and get a copy of my 20% rule. And if you're listening to this before the 1st of April, 2025, come into my Facebook group, because I've found a few extra copies, paperback, of the 20% rule, and I'll be giving them away in a competition. Thanks for listening. If you're ready to reclaim your independence, then subscribe to this podcast, because there is so much I'm going to give you. You've got to subscribe on your favourite channel, it says. What channel? I ain't going to be on the BBC, am I?